Welcome to week 3 in high school football. I'm your host, Greg Larnard. This is the Acadiana postgame show, and it's the high school football forecast. All right, let's take a look back at week 2 and our player of the week from last week, and it's STM quarterback Caleb Holstein. In a 56-17 rout of Barb last week, Holstein was in fuego. He threw 25 for 38 passing for 480 yards and 7 touchdowns. Are you kidding me? 7 touchdowns in a high school football game? Get out of here, Caleb Holstein, your player of the week. And the Cougars are 2-0. They're home against Plaquemine this week. All right, let's take a look at 3 games I'm watching out for this week in high school football. The first one happens to be our game of the week on Newstalk 96.5 KPEL. It's the Turleys Rebels at Opelousas. Turleys comes into this matchup 2-0, Opelousas 0-2. The Rebels rolled last week over Archbishop Hannon 49-8. Quarterback Samuel LeBlanc was awesome. His decision making was good. He was very accurate with his passes. And even the secondary weapons for the Rebels are starting to contribute. Look at a wide receiver named Julian Guy, had 2 touchdowns last week. And then you look at running backs. RJ Tripp and Terrio as well, each contributed a touchdown. Opelousas, on the other hand, as I mentioned, they're 0-2 and they've struggled early on in this season. Their offense is averaging just about 10 points per game, and their defense, not much better. They've given up 41 points per game over the first 2 weeks of the season. This is another good opportunity for the Rebels to continue to roll in week 3. All right, let's take a look at the second game I'm watching out for this week around the high school football landscape, and it's one that you'll hear on ESPN 1420. It's LCA at Acadiana, a matchup of 2 really strong programs. Both teams 2-0 coming into this matchup, so you know something's got to give. The Rams, solid win last week over Ruston, 28-20, and the Knights, after squeaking past Westgate 7-0, a lot of people were questioning, does this offense still have the high power that we've seen in years past? Well, they answered those questions against Northside. They came out with a 51-6 victory. And in this matchup of 2 Titans around the high school football landscape, I'm watching out for in this matchup is the defensive line for LCA. How do they match up with the Veer machine, the offensive line, and the running backs for Acadiana? Dylan Monette is going to be a game time decision. Obviously, he's their lead back for Acadiana, so we'll see what happens. I think this game is going to be won or lost up front with the big uglies in the trenches. All right, our final game of the week that I'm watching out for around high school football, you'll hear it on Classic Rock 105.1. It'll be Breaux Bridge at St. Martinville. Breaux Bridge comes into this matchup 2-0. St. Martinville 1-1. This is a rematch that we saw at the end of the season last year with both of these teams undefeated in the district. Breaux Bridge, I think, was about 7-2 at that point. St. Martinville was undefeated on the entire season, going for the perfect regular season, and they got it. 30-28, they got the win, and it was a Breaux Bridge missed field goal at the end of the game, and some folks at Breaux Bridge will still tell you that one went through because it went over the actual upright. It was very, very difficult to tell. Obviously, there's no replay in high school football. So head coach of Breaux Bridge, Chad Porcho, told us he is fired up for this matchup, and his team is ready for a little bit of revenge from last season's loss. Breaux Bridge is 2-0 this season, as I mentioned. They had a win last week over Catholic High New Iberia. St. Martinville, they're looking to rebound after a tough 38-7 setback against Lafayette. Yeah, Lafayette got St. Martinville last week, so you got to imagine that Breaux Bridge is feeling good about themselves coming into this matchup. St. Martinville probably not feeling too good about themselves. This is an inter-parish rivalry. We'll see how it goes down on Friday night. And that's a look at the high school football forecast in week number 3 on the Acadiana Postgame Show. I'm your host, Greg Larnard.